Welcome, mothers and others. Today, we're meeting with Jrmar Jefferson, a candidate for Texas' 1st Congressional District, which covers eastern Texas towns of Lufkin, Tyler, and Nacogdoches. His goals are education, housing, public safety, and bringing jobs to East Texas. Welcome, Jrmar. We're so happy you're here. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and why you're running, and a little bit about your platform?
Well, thank you, everyone, for having me, and may our Creator continue to bless us all with prosperity, long life, health, and strength, and a better future and an economy that works for all of us. So my name is Jrmar Jefferson. My friends call me JJ, so please feel free to call me JJ. That's my name. So I'm running for Congress for, let me start here. I got into politics by accident. I wasn't supposed to be in politics. I'm a singer. I'm a songwriter. Been on American Idol, every TV show. Sold 50,000 records. Should have sold 50 million. But I had a very hard life. I sought Mothers Against Greg Abbott because Greg Abbott did something to me that's unforgivable. Even I don't believe God or Jesus will forgive him unless he do right. He still has the opportunity to do right, but when an individual does wrong, they continue to just kick it down the road. It doesn't matter. So I got into politics in 2013, really 14. But my father is Jrmar Jr. He's the longest serving person on death row in Texas history. Well, I'm 41. And in 1980, my father was convicted of capital murder for a crime he didn't commit, to where the district attorney of Bowie County paid one man $200 to lie in front of an all-white jury that was 25 years his senior. They gave a plea agreement to a Dallas native African-American man who had an arson charge, 3 strikes, to also come and lie in front of an all-white jury, everyone 25 years his senior. Me and my twin brother, because I'm an identical twin, we were in my mother's womb, who she was 16. 16. So essentially, he got a half a day trial, really 4.5 hours, convicted. 30 years later, one of the witnesses found God, and he became an assistant pastor, associate pastor. And I was in the courtroom in 2003 at the federal courts in Texarkana when they overturned the conviction and the sentence for one witness got paid $200 and the other one a plea agreement. And Greg Abbott, who happened to be on the entire time, most of the time, he was on the Texas Court of Appeals. Which my father had many tried to go get some remedy for. He didn't get a jury by trial, a jury of his peers. He didn't have 6th Amendment or 7th Amendment, any constitutional protections. But Greg Abbott was the Attorney General when this happened. And he allowed for the guy who was the Assistant District Attorney, who was the District Attorney, to continue to stay on the case, even though he was in this conspiracy. So as Greg Abbott moved up the ladder in 2012, my father's court case was heard by the Supreme Court, where they remanded the case back for prosecuting misconduct, ineffective counsel. And my story starts there simply because I was 34 before I ever voted. I didn't vote for Barack Obama. I know why people aren't voting. They're trying to make it. They're trying to put gas in the tank, food on the table, trying to get access to health care that we don't have. The basics we don't have. And me being caught in the culture, trying to survive, I didn't know anything about Barack Obama. And he was the first Black president, just like so many other people. Because we're not taught the government. We're taught you got to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. So when my father's case was remanded back, and Greg Abbott let the district attorney come out of retirement to preside over this case instead of doing what he's supposed to do with defending the Constitution and against foreign and domestic terrorism, of which Bowie County, that is domestic terrorism to deny anyone a fundamental right. So my father was forced into a plea deal because that district attorney that Greg Abbott allowed to come out of retirement to preside over the case told him, if you don't take this plea deal, we're going to put you back on death row, because they only remanded back the death sentence for what we did, not the actual guilty plea, which most lawyers, if you don't know this, their obligation is to the courts, not to the client first. right? So it was a lot of due process issues of which his own attorney told me he got him to take the deal out of fear that another all-white jury would put him back on the death row. So, when you're ignorant and you don't know any better, right, it causes a JJ to emerge. We need things that happen to us in our life to where we get involved. This is where I got involved. And this is where this amazing future and this platform has begun. In 2013, I moved out to California, fell in love, had my son, Moshe, who that's not me on all the billboards in East Texas. That's my son, future president of the United States, Israel Moshe Jefferson. But I went back to school to be a teacher. My professor, he said, JJ, you asked the best questions because no one came to my high school to tell me about how the world works around me. No one came to Texas High to register me to vote. No one told us anything but don't do drugs, don't sell drugs, and go to church. That was pretty much it. So essentially, when I went to start, my professor said, if you go down and volunteer, I said, I'm not going to volunteer. He said, well, do it for some extra credit. I said, I'll do it for some extra credit. So I went down to the local Democratic Party, which my professor told me to go. And I started volunteering. And because I was a point guard, I'm very competitive. So I registered over 5,000 people to vote. I ran for office. People immediately saying, you should run for city council. You should run for mayor. And poor people pulled me aside and told me to run for county board of supervisors. You would do good. So I ran for office. I didn't win in 2014, but I got more votes than the previous people, and I had a 30-day campaign. So essentially, I got in, I kept running, I kept learning, and right now, this is my third time running for Congress. My 12th campaign, I've been a part of 19 campaigns. I came back home because of the failure of Greg Abbott with the rolling powers to blackouts because my cousin froze to death in Dallas. And I was scheduled to win in California, but I have a twin brother and I have a cousin. He died because of the failed administration of Greg Abbott and Ted Cruz and the entire Texas legislature of not giving us the basics of securing basic power. We pay for a service and we don't get it. We die and we have to pay the cost. So essentially what happened was my cousin froze to death and they took him to the morgue instead of the hospital. That's how they die. That's how Greg Abbott and state of Texas value people who look like me's lives. Go take them to the morgue. The doctor pronounced him dead over the telephone. So it broke my heart. I came back here in September. We buried my cousin James. And my mother said, Jrmar, please don't go back. I said, why? I'm finna win in California. She said, no, come here. There's nobody like you here. She said, you can win here. I said, Mama, I can win here. This is a red state. I was going around. I was drinking the belief that Republicans had more power than what they thought. So I started calling around, looking into the numbers, and I found out that Max Sander was the congressman here. And I looked at the history that Democrats had East Texas forever. And it was only when Louie Gohmert came in and got it. I said, you know what? They never seen somebody like me. I'm going to turn into the Texas tornado. I'm JJ. I'm going to go to East Texas and I'm going to take that Republican seat. But little did I know how big 17 counties was. Right? 17 counties I've been through 8 times. So my platform is simple. I want us to have the basics. I'm not a politician. I'm a statesman. I want to represent people like I did when I was a child. When at church, I love serving people. When my mother had Mission Hope in my hometown of Texas County, where we fed people, and I love serving people. I love sacrificing for other people. I love to see other people winning. Even when I was a point guard at Texas High, I love to see us work together to win. So my platform is making sure that I looked at what we're not getting. That's opportunities. We're not getting access to healthcare when we need it. The opportunities from SBA loans, the Department of Housing is not keeping up with the increase in population. We just overall need people who care about people in office so that we can get them the beginning of what they need, which is the basics. And that starts with respect. And so my campaign is centered around JJ serving people. We talked to over 50,000 people, just me and my twin, different events. I spoke at the convention and I talked about giving people the one thing that they're not getting right now, and that's hope. Hope that it's going to get better. Hope that tomorrow brings a better promise for all of us, not just some of us. We have right now in the state of Texas just two billionaires trying right now to destroy public education because they're trying to give us vouchers. That will hurt mothers. We have failed things like I want to improve with No Child Left Behind. We should have made sure inside that bill, number one was every child in America eats fruit. Each fruit, basic breakfast, lunch, and keep the schools open for dinner because many mothers can't afford to give their child a decent meal at night. But we have a budget. We're quick to go to war. We're quick to fund the police. We're quick to secure the borders, but we're not quick to stop the drugs from coming across the border. That's Greg Abbott's fault for every drug dealer that is created in America, for the drugs that's supplied across our borders. He can't secure the borders. When I'm elected in the Congress, we're going to secure those borders and we're going to give people the rehabilitation and the respect that they need.
Great. Thank you so much. Tell us a little bit more about your district. District 1 where does your district start? Where does it end? What are some important priorities for your constituents that you would like to represent as the next congressional representative?
Yeah, well, my district is Smith County, which is Tyler to Longview, Gregg County to Marshall, heading down to Sabine County, which is basically, if you I'm so sorry. Go down, it's from Marshall to Carthage to Center to St. Augustine, which are smaller counties. Some counties have like 6,000 people. Going up to my hometown of Texarkana, which is Bowie, Clarksville, to Mount Pleasant, to Mount Vernon, of course, to Dangerfield, Pittsburgh. I have the border. What my district needs the most is opportunities as far as we need to make sure that we create jobs here. A lot of people are leaving for opportunities elsewhere, but when we all leave East Texas, our brightest minds, and we go to Chicago, we go to Los Angeles, well, other rural areas who aren't getting the development that they need. So I'm going to propose a bill called REPEAL, the Rural Area Proactive Investment Act. We get our budget through a loan through the Federal Reserve. That's how America gets its money, which with $30 trillion in debt, of which every citizen, man, woman, child, and those who self-identify owe 92,000 plus to the national debt because we're the United States of America. So while we have a budget of which we're the collateral for, I want to make sure that it's allocated in the budget that rural areas get the same investment as urban areas. And for those who don't know what the difference is, an urban area is defined by 500,000 plus one people, you're urban. Under that, you're rural. So right now, you have a lot of the people in Dallas, Austin, have people in Houston, El Paso, the mega cities, mega urban areas. They're eating up the bulk of the budget and they're forgetting about East Texas. No more. I want to go to make sure that I introduce this bill and I negotiate and show my true leadership to the other rural areas, and we demand the rural areas get their just piece of the budget so that we can begin to build, because what we don't want to happen is that the urban areas who are overdeveloped and underdeveloped, we are aligned for individuals to control our destiny, and we have so much land and opportunities in the rural areas to where we can create those jobs. People can stay home around the people that they know, and we can help and build outwardly by just sticking together and staying where you grew up. Pretty much like what my mother said, I came home to be a light to everyone here.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, you mentioned the previous congressman earlier, but CD1 has been represented by Republican Louie Gohmert since 2004. Gohmert has been the Texas Monthly Bum Steer runner-up for several years for a lot of his comments that he makes, which are really off the cuff and terrible. Texas Monthly has a running article to keep up with things that the CD1 representative has said over the years, like this year when he cried, "If you're a Republican, you can't even lie to Congress or lie to the FBI agent or they're coming for you." Besides saying things that make little sense, what has Gohmert done for your congressional district, for you and for your constituents? Has he done anything?
Well, he allegedly he got one bill passed that he was a co-sponsor, but like many false leaders, many self-indulged leaders, he's done absolutely nothing. The rich have got richer in this district, big oil and gas, which backed him, the lawyers of some certain lawyer associations. We need help in East Texas. I'm the first African-American Black Negro candidate male ever. Let me say that again. I am the first ever to run in East Texas. There's a fear culture here that I don't believe in fear. I was a starting point guard for a reason, because I believe in taking initiative, personal initiative. But the people are living in almost like in the 60s or the early pre 65 civil rights because of what was done. Job security breaks people. People are just trying to hold on. So we need representation like JJ to move us forward. What we lack right now is people with vision and imagination to think about how we can get out of our problems. So Louie Gohmert, he's not even running anymore. I wish he was running. We wouldn't have the fundraising issues that we're having right now because he's such a bad guy. But we are in danger here in East Texas. We have an opponent that Louie Gohmert is secretly endorsing. His name is Nathaniel Moran. He's the Smith County judge. Now, I'll give you a prime example of how bad he is. Right now, people are barely holding on. And my opponent is trying to levy a tax to build a courthouse / jail to where they can give people swift justice. This courthouse will cost $179 million, of which over the next 25 years, people will have to pay back in scenario 3, $303 million. That's $124 million over the next 25 years, which is like 12 million and some change that they're going to have to find outside of their general fund how to levy those taxes on people. Now, they're going to levy it on property tax, of which Greg Abbott and the Republicans pushed the tax that went through where they gave a reduction of $15,000 per $45,000 of land evaluation that they're going to also additionally put on people who rent. Seniors on a fixed income. So the cost of living is going to go up. Ticket quotas are going to go up. Swift justice is going to go up. Nobody's going to get a 6th nor 7th Amendment protections that all judges are bound to because they're trying to build a new courthouse. And people right now in Smith County are not getting justice right now. The roads are horrible. Crime is through the roof. People are dying in the prisons there. So it's a lot of problems in Smith County. My opponent doesn't want to debate. He hasn't campaigned. Pretty much he's hiding under the curtail of the Republican skirt. And that's okay. But if he was a good man, the better man, he would come out, debate JJ, fight JJ. He should best me if he's the best man, not running like a coward behind the Republican Party and Greg Abbott trying to protect him from me. But they can't be protected from me because I speak the truth. So what the people have to be aware of is that my opponent is right now using just this $179 million bond to buy Democrats. And this needs to be said. People are using money, favors, and kickbacks. And we have people, and I won't identify them, they know who they are, selling the future out for a temporary gain. And I'll never do that. I'll never do that. And shame on anyone who sells the future out. George Washington said, beware of perpetual debt that you put on future generations.
Yes, thank you. Now, you talked a little bit about this earlier. Before we kind of started streaming this show, you said you have a strong religious background. So what did faith teach you that you want to bring to the constituents in D1?
About being a good Samaritan. My grandmother raised me and my mother raised me together. It takes a village to raise a family. So every weekend, my Uncle Jimmy, who's in the military in Bahrain right now, serving our country, he used to come pick us up. And my grandma, wake up, make your bed, come eat breakfast that you didn't make, and go out and rake those leaves. Yes, grandma, because I love my grandma. Sunday, wake up, make up your bed, come eat breakfast that you didn't make, and get ready, let's go to church. My mom was also the church pianist at Full Gospel Holy Temple, and my grandmother was Church of God in Christ. So at 9 o'clock, we're at Church of God in Christ. And at 11:30 noon, we were my mom. And I'm a singer. So I grew up singing in church. So all of my life, all I heard was scriptures about helping people. Remember, keep hope alive, being a good Samaritan, loving thy neighbor, right? Being good in the midst of a storm, not being a follower, but being a leader, making sure that you lead by example in a moral and righteous life. So my faith is holding dear today because I don't drink to this day. I don't do drugs. I never have. I think maybe one time someone tried to convince me when I was 14. Well, I'm not a follower, but I'll follow you to do good, but I won't follow you to do bad. So my faith is in my heart, and my faith tells me to serve others and not just in words. I'm the guy that arrives early and I stay late and I help the people clean up, take out the trash, even at a fundraiser for me. And I go into the kitchen. Well, the people were serving because I wasn't able to, and I thank them because I'm a servant. I've been volunteering for the last 8 years and campaigning. I haven't made a penny doing this. I'm not doing this for the money. I'm doing this for the future because the future belongs to us. So my faith tells me that if you faint not in due season, you will get your reward. So my faith has nothing to do with a religion. Because the only good religion, according to the King James Version Bible, is to visit the widows and the fatherless when they're in affliction and keep yourself unspotted from the world. That means you can't go out here saying, yes, you can be a Catholic, you can be a Jehovah's Witness, you can be whatever, but a tree is known by the fruit that it bears. We continue to fight for people to have the basics, especially when there's resources and budgets there. So I will be possibly the most effective congressman, not just for East Texas, but for the entire country, because I'll be a voice for the people. Why? Because I lived in Sacramento, Chicago. I've lived in Newark. I lived in Atlanta. I lived in Houston. I've lived throughout the country, and we have the same problems. We have politicians going in, getting elected in both the Democrat and Republican Party, and they forget that they're there to serve the people, and they come out 20, 30 years later rich. And the people are in a dire situation to this day because there's a personal responsibility that we're giving when you're a representative, and I'm going to take that serious.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think you're going to take it seriously too. I agree with you. I love your passion. So I'm listening to you and I'm just sitting here nodding my head. Go, 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 JJ, go. You talked earlier, you talked about this a little bit earlier, but let's go dive a little bit deeper into some social justice and talk about, let's just start talking about what your father accepted a plea for a crime that he did not commit. Can you explain how this process that you and your family went through with your father, what has it taught you about the criminal justice system in Texas? And what could you change the process of how it is run currently if you are elected into office? And then tell us a little bit about what you've learned about social justice, rehabilitation, and just punishment, itself and what we could do about it.
Well, the first thing we do to really get social justice is we have to hold all judges to the Constitution. Every judge is bound to supremacy clause. That means we need to get rid of plea deals, right? Plea deals don't allow for people to have a fair trial by a jury of their peers. Jury of their peers means you grew up in my community, you're my cousin, you're a friend, you went to the school and you shop at the grocery stores. Unlike my father, everyone was 25 years his senior and nobody lived in his community. So he was judged by enemies because he was looked at as an enemy for what his alleged crime that he was convicted of. Even though I seen the actual real killer, know why the killer killed the young man, and they had full knowledge, the attorney, when I brought up the name, he said, we heard that it might have been him. And I said, why did you not discredit my father with this guy? I believe my father has been not only raped, beaten, right? Intimidated, set up right there in the prison system. More men are raped than what people are understanding right in the jails. More drugs are coming in to those prison systems and no one's stopping it. Why? Because if it's not stopped, if you can break out, how do they break drugs in? So it's not designed to rehabilitate anyone. First, hold everybody accountable to the judges to the supremacy clause. Two, we look at the 13th Amendment. It has always been about labor, free labor. The prison system is nothing but Jim Crow 2.0. So you have all of these people right here in the state of Texas, no different than our immigration process. It can be solved, but people want cheap labor. They don't want to pay people a fair wage because they're looking for a way to capitalize, not for free markets. So let's go back. One, make sure every judge is bound to the supremacy clause. Two, we look at the 13th Amendment and we at least pay every so-called criminal who is now a slave according to the 13th Amendment. Slavery and indentured servitude is abolished except for a criminal offense where the person has duly been convicted in the jurisdiction. Except, so if you commit a crime, we can enslave you. And every 50 state takes advantage of this. And these are so-called Christian leaders who believe in slavery, just like these so-called Christian Confederates. And that's what conservative means for all the viewers. When someone says they're conservative, they mean they're Confederate. And they want to make sure all the Black folks go back into slavery, or they're looking for a way to trick people into becoming cheap labor, or labor to the point to where they can capitalize. And go look at what capitalism is. So let's retract that. Judges are bound to the supremacy clause. That means you get a trial by jury of peers. We look at the 13th Amendment, and we at least pay all the people in prison a federal minimum wage. It's the law. We have to combat them with the basic things that they cannot counter. And all citizens, of which every person in jail, which, by the way, they're supposed to be able to vote. According to Article 1, Section 2, if you're a citizen and you're counted in the census, the 15th Amendment then say that in Texas, Election Code 1300.1 says that if you are a felon, and a felon is defined as 1 year and 1 day in jail, that you can't vote or you don't have the right to bear arms. So which, by the way, the Supreme Court just shot that down as unconstitutional, because a statute or ordinance or any election, transportation code, if it goes against the Constitution, fundamental rights that are given to us by our Creator, of which the Declaration of Independence is the law of God, the law of nature's God. Men cannot make any laws to go contrary to these. That means no ordinance can violate freedom of speech. They gave us a Bill of Rights. Everyone gets to bear arms. Everyone gets freedom of speech. We are a republic. So if we force the basics on them, the Republicans in leadership, they're not that smart, right? Because they're looking for codes to cheat us out of our rights. And if we just be belligerent about our rights, we can begin to have true social justice, true rehabilitation. We can then force better jobs, because right now, if we force, even on our immigration policies, people who come to America or people throughout the world, we shall hold them to the same standards. You must at least pay people before we bring your goods into our country, our federal minimum wage. It's an easy fix to make sure we improve our economy by just living up to our own standards, not looking for ways to curtail them. Social justice just means everyone has a fair chance. If I do wrong, I should be punished. But if I didn't, I should go free to not be molested or harassed, just so that I can meet a quota, so that someone can force me back into a field and then trick taxpayers to pay to keep me locked up and separate me from my family. You asked the question, how has that affected me? When I was in school to be a teacher, we have a class called group communications, to where you have to get up in front of a class and you write a speech, but the teacher, the professor said, write something personal. So I wrote I wrote about the effect of children whose parents are incarcerated. And I researched it, and I found out The statistic says that if you have a parent in jail, the odds of you going to jail, it increases more than 50%. Why? Because society around me said you're going to be just like your father, a murderer. You're going to jail. I've had police put drugs on me. I've had guns put to my head. I've had people say you're no good, and that's Jrmar Banks Jr.'s son. But the Creator, what people have planned evil for you, the Creator has good. And here I am. Though my father was wrongfully incarcerated, I'm running for Congress for the third time. And if we don't win, we're going to run for the fourth time. Because guess what? The Republican Party is weak. They're dying off, and the economy is about to crash because they were greedy. They didn't believe in fundamental rights, working together, being a good Samaritan. They believe in capitalism, taking advantage of one another, denying women privacy rights when men have privacy rights. They don't understand how natural law works. So we reap what we sow. So essentially, social justice can easily be fixed by looking at the numbers. It's just the numbers. And if we level the playing field, make sure that if I win the lottery and you take 40% from me, if a corporation has an IPO and they release it and their valuation goes up to $100 billion, they have to pay the same amount of taxes that the NFL player does, the lottery winner does, and we have to look at trust laws, because if you look at how everyone is curtailing the law, creating the problems, it's in the tax code.
Absolutely. That's really interesting. Yes, I agree. That gave me definitely a lot to think about there, JJ. I have a lot to think about, a lot to break down, and you're right. You're right. I'm thinking about things a little bit differently now too. So I really thank you for that.
I just want to tell all the viewers, ladies, y'all can get Greg Abbott out. We need to get Beto to target the prisons. Slave labor, right? Mass incarceration. That is Greg Abbott's weak point. Look at all of the families that they're dividing with family court. Look, the court system, he's an attorney. When he got hit and he had that accident, guess what? He immediately signed a bill through the legislature that if that happened to you, you don't get $20 million. Right? This is what kind of person he is. He's evil. And we have to call
reform.
Yeah.
He made it to where like nobody can do anything for tort reform, and it ruins so many thousands of people's lives because of that. And that's just messed up after he benefited from it so much.
And so the law should have went retroactive on him. So that's the reason I said what I said earlier. There's no forgiveness for certain people, because maybe Greg Abbott was put her to be evil, and people like JJ and every wonderful American that's a part of Mothers Against Greg Abbott will put her to be the light. See, there's always two sides to a story. We got leaders we have good people, and we have bad people. And the bad people seem to play their role very well. They're bad. Yeah, they come down on your taxes, they lock you up, they separate your family. But evil prevails only because good people do nothing. And if we unite and do something, remember this, if I don't say anything else, good always prevails over evil. Always, if the good just comes out. Light conquers darkness. The good guy always wins, right? Not the bad guy, the good guy. It may be at the end, we're in the middle. We can win this, and we need to get Greg Abbott out because he's a horrible leader. He's bad for Texas. And he personally, in my opinion, he's did the unforgivable sin. But he could do the right thing by pardoning my father, but he won't do it. It's hard for evil people to do good things, even if it would give them the redemption to their own religious values that they say they hold dear about being a good Samaritan.
Yes, I agree there. So let's just pivot a little bit. Texans throughout the entire state are still shaken up by gun violence control that led to the loss of children in Uvalde earlier this year. What is the stance on gun control, and how will you bring control to Texans while honoring the Second Amendment?
Well, I'm so glad you asked this question. And y'all know this. I give all credit to my creator, y'all. Remember this. This is the Second Amendment, which most Republicans do not know it. They want the right to bear arms. That's not the Second Amendment. Let me share with you what the Second Amendment is. A well-regulated militia necessary for the security of a free state and the right of the people to bear arms shall not be infringed, not individual. Gun violence happens because the military will not give you a weapon when you come in. They train you. Well-regulated militia. So you have to join something in order to get access to military-grade weapons. And then with your skill level, they work you up, even to be a marksman, to where you can shoot something a mile away. And they give you the equipment, the training necessary, because the military needs trained individuals to use those tools. So Uvalde happened because of the failure of Greg Abbott. Greg Abbott is so quick to put a gun in the hand of certain individuals while deeming other individuals a threat. Once again, conservative means Confederate. So we're going to bring this to modern time. Greg Abbott, when he signed that bill, open to carry, it was code word. We want every white American who is Republican, who agree with us, to have a gun. Because right now you can have open to carry and you can still get shot by the police. It's ingrained into the system that we want certain individuals defenseless. We can look at history and go back and see the lords of England. Peasants didn't get weapons. They had pitchforks and stuff to come out to the battlefield, unless one prevailed and they gave them a sword and made them a knight. It's the same thing, but just modern time. Greg Abbott is trying to arm a secret army right here in East Texas and tell the rest of his un-American behavior friends to, hey, this is how we do it here in Texas. We love guns. Well, when I'm in Congress, this is what we do. If you're not a part of what the Texas Constitution is defined as, militia is defined as the National Guard, the state guard, that you have to join the National Guard to have the privilege of the Second Amendment. You can't just be walking around here just buying weapons, right? Because most of the people right now can't fight. So they can't fight, and the moment you get to beating them up or winning in a battle, they're going to pull their gun out. A lot of the people, even in the military, you have to be in shape. So we have a lot of unhealthy people out here with guns. Crime, if he cares about the law enforcement, like he says, he would make everybody join the National Guard so that he, as the commander-in-chief of the state of Texas, can secure the state by regulating everyone who wants a weapon. But if you don't want to join the militia or the National State Guard, you're not entitled to those Second Amendment privileges. It's just the law. If we enforce the law as is, I believe the Supreme Court will side with JJ on this interpretation. But when they say the right to bear arms and they cut off the rest of it, and then they continue on with, well, you can't have the right to bear arms if you're a felon. You can't have the right to bear arms as this, and what type of weapon? That's not the law. So if we just go back to the beginning, we can keep our children safe. I mean, we got to understand this, that our children to the age of 25, you're a child. Your brain isn't developed to 25. So we need to do all that we can to invest into education, even if that includes ROTC, which we can get billions and billions of dollars from the military because we have a high turnover rate with the military, which we can find numerous ways to the CIA, the Department of Agriculture, to have streams of revenue to come into East Texas, and not only East Texas, throughout the entire country, so that we can use their budget to work for us. Congress only has two things to do: power of the purse, we allocate budgets, and we make laws. I'm not trying to make any laws. I'm trying to make sure we enforce the laws that's on the books, and any statute, any law that goes against fundamental rights, we got to get rid of it. Why? Because I believe in two things: freedom and liberty.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for that. Let's talk a little bit about something else that Greg Abbott has recently done. He recently has been making lots of headlines for transporting immigrants to northern liberal states, intentionally making difficult for those in the northern states to help those being transported into their areas. And the truck drivers are signing NDAs to help prevent them from talking to any state officials trying to assist the people that are being told that they're being transported out of state. How do you feel about some of the tactics that Greg Abbott has been doing when it comes to border issues?
So I said this earlier, evil people only do evil things continuously. They can't stop. So let's get into the legal understanding of what he's doing. This is human trafficking. And right now, as a future congressman, the moment that he transports anybody across state lines, the Interstate Commerce Clause can come in and subject him to stop him from doing this. We got to ask one question. We knew over hundreds, if not over 100,000 children came up missing when they said millions of people came to the United States. This is nothing but a loud trumpet saying, oh, we can transport fresh, undocumented human body parts. This is human trafficking. This is a federal crime that a sitting member of the highest seat in the state is doing. And they're laughing because no one has stepped up to stop them. I couldn't be president. I would have came right in and put cuffs on him myself. He needs to go to jail, and he's using taxpayers' dollars to do it. And now I hear he's trying to get people to privately fund this. Now they have an interest to make sure they look for healthy specimens. So when I said the Creator is looking at us, we're judged about being a good Samaritan, this should have been stopped the moment that they did it. He said he was going to secure the borders when he got in. How are people even allowed under a Greg Abbott administration, probably one of the toughest, baddest guys who's rolling around everywhere, right, standing up for our rights, talking about he's going to secure the borders every year and blaming everything on Joe Biden. But right now he's engaging in human trafficking. We got to call it what it is. He's breaking a lot of the United States codes. He's breaking federal law. He's breaking the law of the land. Those NDAs are void ab initio. They have a duty to make sure they fully disclose to those people in their language to where they can understand where they're going. Because not only are they breaking immigration law, right? They're sending potential people who America has enemies. And I want to say this. We've been at war for a long time. Right? We drop bombs in other countries all over the world, and all of our tax dollars help to contribute to it. How do we know that Greg Abbott isn't shipping someone who has a sinister plan to harm Americans? And he's sending them to urban areas. We have people like Greg Abbott in office, I believe, allegedly, trying to destroy our country, that continually trying to divide us. And every child that I've met, from the elementary to the high schools, to the colleges, to the seniors, to the union workers, to Republicans, it doesn't matter. 85% of the people want us to unite. Right? And 85% of the people say it's wrong, but they're afraid to say what needs to be said. I'm calling on President Joe Biden to come and the FBI to investigate what these governors are doing. I'm calling on the Pope, the Catholic Church, to come in and rebuke Greg Abbott and anyone who believes human trafficking against their will. Full disclosure. This is kidnapping. This is unlawful kidnapping. I mean, if I was to do that to anyone and take them, oh, let's go for a ride and take them to Oklahoma, they'll say, JJ, he's this, he's that, and they throw the cuffs on me, and they're laughing about it. Just like he said he would eliminate rape, but they're getting raped in the prisons. Men are being raped in the military. You see, because rape has been a part of the American culture for a long time. Remember, all the land in America, I'll tell you the truth, so when it happens, you will be ready. Every grain of land in America was stolen. So people who are taking possession of stolen land, I mean, they agree with how the people obtained it. And therefore, they extract the mineral rights, they live comfortable lives, and they enslave the rest of us. Because I tell you the truth, people who came from England and conquered and took this land and enslaved in 1705, the 1705 Virginia Negro Act is where people who look like me, which both of my grandparents picked cotton with their mothers, of which their grandparents were slaves. 1705, that's when they permanently made all Negroes and today Black African Americans permanent slaves and took the land. They took it, right? So what do you expect? The children of people who took land, murdered the whole population, World War I, World War II, the War of Korea, the War of Vietnam, the war in Saudi, the war in Afghanistan, the war in Iraq, the war on drugs since 1971, of which they spent $1 trillion. We have right now in East Texas, people can't even pay $2.50 a day to feed their children. That's the reason I need to win so we can get in and I can propose feed our babies. So if you're in college, university, to grade school, you eat, and we need to put chefs and home ec back into the schools so people can learn how to cook delicious meals, because we are starving, and McDonald's and Burger King, they're not being held responsible for serving us the foods that don't feed our brains. And the biggest enemy to any mother right now is what nobody's suspecting. The biggest threat to America is the, what's their name? Oh my goodness. The Food and FDA. We need to split them up. It needs to be the Food Administration, and we need to take the same stance as Europe, and we can get all these chemicals and processed foods out. It's causing a lot of the chronic disease and things because we lack the basic nutrition, and we need the Drug Administration to be not sitting on the same boards as the food corporations. That's probably the biggest threat to America.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I've been following you on social media, and there was one day where I was so upset when something happened to you, and it upset me so deeply. I couldn't believe it, and yet I could. And I just didn't even know what to do. I was so upset. So I think you know what I'm talking about. You were at a gas station recently, and there was a little thing that happened. And could you explain to us what happened, and was there any solution to anything that happened to you?
So I was on my JJ's driving through East Texas. Oh yeah. So I was on my 100-day tour through the city, through the 17 counties. And I was on my way from Longview to Carthage. I had a meeting at 6 o'clock. So around 12 o'clock, I was gassing up, as I always do, because I'm a Sam's member. And my car wouldn't work. So I went they give courtesy swipes. And the young Asian American came out. He said, "Oh, I know who you are, man. You JJ." Because I got signs up everywhere in East Texas. I mean, I do the work that other candidates will not do. That's the reason you see me light-skinned back there. And I'm a little dark because the sun been cooking me. It's been cooking me. I'm melanated. So essentially what happened was the young man was asking me questions, and I give different answers. I give solutions. I play chess, not checkers. And he started asking me questions, and he said, "Man, how do I vote for you?" And I reached to give him two of my cards, my rack cards, push cards. And I saw a gentleman just looking at me like this. And he was listening the whole time. He's literally less than 5 feet on the other side of the gas pump. I'm right here talking. And I saw, I'm a respectful young man. I'm peaceful. I love everybody. Even if you're my enemy, I'm going to still show you respect, because that's what you do. You respect even your enemies. So when I went to offer him a rack card, I said, "This young man is trying to unite us." He said, I won't say the words, but he said, "You people, what's wrong with this country? I don't want that SHIT. And I was like, "Oh, what did I do? I didn't destroy the country." So I turned to the young man who was a sales worker, and he said, "Wow." I said, "I'm so glad that in the future, we're gonna leave the past behind. We're gonna worry about our skin tone, and we're gonna focus on making this a better place for all of us." And so the young Asian American came in to give me a hug. So I gave him a hug, and when I looked over, I saw him steady cussing me out. And I was like, "Hey, I haven't cussed you out one time," and nothing like that. "Have a nice day." And then when I looked back, I saw him do something like this. And that's when I told him, "You better not pay your gas on. You better not oh, spray no gas on me. And then, because I feel like he's going to spray gas on me. And then he stopped, looked at his pump. He said, I'll hold you down and set you on fire. And I'm looking down that bird. I'm looking at what's in his hand. He can really do this. I'm like, oh, so I didn't want to reach for anything. This is Greg Abbott country. Everybody got open and carry. He was an older white man. Caucasian American. And I was like, so I started praying real quick. And I said, you better not do that. You won't be forgiven if you do such an evil thing. How could you want to do that to another American? And that's when he snapped out of it. And then he was like, then he put it up and then he snapped out of himself. Because sometimes, people do things and they're not underwear because it escalated so fast, not because of me, because he knew who I was, right? Just the day before, they were on the news saying that I might be able to beat the expectation and win this race. But that wasn't the first time someone brashed a gun or threatened me. I have people saying, don't bring the ASS back down to Sabine County. I'm going to chop your sign down. Who do you think you are? We don't want things to change. We like the way things are. And I said, well, time waits for no man. Things will change. And I said, it's the reason I wear this pen right here, to let them know you have to deal wiser with me because the creator, you don't want to make a martyr out of JJ. Right. And I was really emotional for like a week or so. So right now, rumors are that the party suppressed it. They didn't want to push it because, just rumor, allegedly. So I've got little to no support at all. I got probably half of the Democrats in East Texas don't like the fact that they have an African-American nominee for the first time. And I tell the truth and shame the devil. If they ain't help me now, they're not going to help me. I have people who ran for this seat before. That's not helping me. Literally. Right? One gave a $40 donation and said she don't want to be identified. And then told me stop saying stuff about my religion. I'm like, and this is an African-American woman. So we have people here in East Texas that's Democrats that love Republican rulership because they connected to it. But they forget that they're older now and the children, they're going to be left with debt and no leadership. But I'm so happy that I spoke with the person that's the detective. I spoke with him and I said, well, have you watched the video? Yes, that's what I want to talk with you about. I said, well, have you talked to the guy yet? No, not yet. I said, well, you want to talk to me, but you don't want to talk to him? I said, okay, I have something to do right now, so I'm going to actually set it up this tomorrow to go in and watch the video. When I watch the video, I'll secure it. I don't know exactly what they're going to say, but I got some good ideas of what they're going to say. But once I obtain that video, the police officer that came out there showed me no respect. It took me making him call the sergeant out there for the sergeant to tell him to take the police report. So, my life didn't matter to that first responding officer, but I'm grateful to the Longview sergeant, police department sergeant who came out there and he said, hey, if he did that, yeah, that's a terroristic threat. And I'm a federal candidate. You can't threaten a federal candidate. That's a federal crime. So we have a lot of problems. And, people start, saying, oh, he made this up. I said, why would I make this up if a person has a gas pump in his hand saying he's going to dash you with gas and set you on fire? That young shooter, murderer, who went into Uvalde Elementary and shot and slaughtered and murdered those innocent, defenseless children. He was warned. He posted to where his friends called him a school shooter. So we could identify these type of individuals. I've had a hard life being the son of Jrmar Banks Jr., so I have a lot of street smarts, and I take every threat serious. So I didn't go out campaigning. I ended my JJ's drive for a little bit because right now I'm a prized possession for a lot of the people that's 70 to 80 years of age. They would love to have a notch of me on their banner. But I'm so grateful that there's a hedge around me by my creator, Yah, that they can't do it, right? So, but there's a lot of hatred. But that hate is going to die with the older generation. But the younger generation, we're going to be left to pick up the pieces to take that energy that the parents, our elders have left, those who have did nothing, those who have contributed into dividing us. And I'm so happy that I get the opportunity to lead the charge, finally, for a jubilee. And I say jubilee for a reason, because every American, in the last 10 years, we bought over $40 trillion from the Federal Reserve. We could have built mansions for everybody, home ownership programs. We could have lowered the cost of living so that if you do make minimum wage, you're still rich because you're American. And all that means, we're speaking the language, we're enjoying our numerous cultures together, and we're moving forward. So I'm so happy and thankful, regardless of the outcome of this race, that I get a chance to be a part of this. Because I tell people, it's better today, JJ tomorrow. You remember that. So, leaders are rising. I complain all the time that, no one came to my high school, but I went back to my high school and I spent the whole day there at Texas High. And I went into 7 classes and spoke to so many children, of which I think about a fourth or half of them registered to vote. And I've already identified 10 leaders who want to run for office. I have young kids saying, I want to run for president like JJ. I said, JJ's running for Congress. I ain't running for president. But the point is, this hate that people have, what does it do for us? What the hate that Greg Abbott has, what does it do for him? I mean, you're pushing a party to hurt people, and you don't like someone because of a color, because they're a Democrat, and you think you're Republican values, but you spend fiat or cash that we don't even produce our own money. We're fighting over political parties. And it's just unfortunate. So I'm going to push this issue the moment that I get the video, and I'll combine the video, and I'm going to push it because if we don't stand up against tyrants and domestic terrorists, because that threat on me was just a threat on how the general population feels about people who get out of line, right? And now, it's just the way it is. We have to move forward. I wasn't going to even say anything at first. I called 3 people and they said, no, Jrmar, you need to say something because, it was a very profound Democratic hard worker who's been in politics before I was even born. She had a gun pulled on her and people are silent. So I'm telling everybody, if anybody threatens your life, call the police, and don't just call the police, sue them in court for intentionally inflicting emotional distress. Sue them and make them pay. The only reason people will stop doing what they do because there's an economic loss to it. We need to start boycotting Republican businesses that talk bad about Democrats. We should create our own Democrat market. We need the rich Democrats to begin to create businesses and opportunities because if they want to continue to divide our country, we need to talk about a Democratic America and a Republican America and let them go the way that they want to go. And we're going to see how successful they are when they don't have poor people or Americans to buy their goods. See, because a lot of the Republicans are only rich because Democrats are spending money with them. If we stop spending money with them, they'll change their tune. And if you don't believe me, go Google Dr. King with his boycott and see how they change real quick.
Yes, that is really true. So thank you so much for meeting with us tonight. I really appreciate it. Where can we find you and how can we help your campaign?
Oh, the magic question. So you can find me at JeffersonForCongress.com and you can learn a little bit more about my platform, the things I want to do. As well, you can help the campaign by everybody voting for Mothers Against Greg Abbott to endorse JJ because I need people to phone bank. I need people to say, hey, JJ, we're with JJ when we're supporting him. If you can make a financial contribution because fundraising is horrible here, it's very horrible. I'm not getting the support I should actually get here. But if I can actually execute my plan, we will win. And this will be the biggest upset in the country to where, we can literally crush the Republican Party in Texas, right here in East Texas, because we've been doing the work. But we need to be able to target 150,000 homes because half the voters don't vote. And right now, they're calling me a transformational candidate. Why? Because of my faith that I had as a young child, my continuance of service all of my life. So if you can make a financial contribution at JeffersonForCongress.com, whether it's $5, $25, or you can max out for those that may have the ability to do it. If we can target and execute our 1, 2, 3 plan, we're going to win this race and we're going to crush the Republican Party here. We're going to drive those members out to help our statewide candidates like Beto, Collier, Garza, Dudley, Claiborne. We can help them all win because so go East Texas, so go the state of Texas. So make a donation.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And thanks so much for meeting with us tonight, JJ. I really appreciate it. And I wish you all the best in the campaign trail, and hopefully I'll get to run into you somewhere along the campaign trail soon.